Hi, Damien here again. I want to talk about standards. Now, I think you might think that standards are a good thing. They're not always a good thing because certain standards can be met and certain standards can be broken. The challenge is understanding what standards are being set. I want to introduce the concept of this 4 S's of setting standards. The ability to set standards is dependent upon the stories, the strategies, and even the state at which you are at any given point in time. What does that mean? The 4 S's that I talk about is standard, strategy, story, and state. If you change your state, you can change your story. You can change your story, you can change your strategy. You change your strategy, you change your standards. Many of us set standards that may not be the right time or place or strategy for the wrong story that they're telling themselves during a certain state of being that they are given at any given point in time. And it's simple as this. If you change your state, either you are in a closed state where you're anxious, tense, constricted, or you're in an open state where you are relaxed, peaceful, and even more enjoyable. If you change those states, your stories will change. If you are in an open state, you tend to have much more positive, optimistic story, that more aspirational things that you are looking forward to. But if you are in a closed state where you're tense and fearful, your stories tend to be much more negative and fearful. Or if you understand that state in which you tell your story, you change the certain types of strategies you are shaping your reality towards. If you tend to look at your state as a much more open state, and you have a positive story that you're aspiring to, the strategies that you are taking towards that are going to be amplifying that certain story that you're telling yourself. And then the standards at which you meet are going to be dictating what that story should look like. It should be really clear goals that you're achieving. Now, if you are coming with a more negative story, set from negative closed states and fearful, your strategies are going to be much more reserved, conservative, or even restrictive. And then your standards for which you're meeting those strategies are going to be much more specific. So most of us don't realize that the state at which we enter into certain standards is either in a closed state or an open state. And so, how do you know? How can you tell when you are trying your standards again and again and you have tension, you have resistance, you have this weird feeling that certain anxious thoughts and feelings aren't being met? And that's because you are in a closed state to which you are measuring these strategies and standards. So, my advice here is to really focus on the state at which you are setting your standards or measuring your standards, because you'll come to find out that sometimes the standards will reveal itself based upon the open state and the stories and the strategies you've set forth. And many of people have tried so hard, not realizing that the standards comes from a place of fear, anxiety, or just anger alone, a closed state. So next time you set standards and you feel as though there's friction, it's not happening, think about the state that you're in, because that's going to change the story that you've been telling yourself, and which will change the strategy to which you approach this, and then you set the standards. So give that a try. The 4 S's: state, story, strategy, standards. Hopefully this helps. Give it a try. Thanks.